My name is Sissy Jones. I'm a voice actress based in Los Angeles. My path in voiceover was very non-traditional. I actually have a degree in business and a degree in Spanish, and parlayed that into working in the Silicon Valley for 10 years. I was out with my now husband, and we were talking about dream jobs, and I said I'd always wanted to be a voice on The Simpsons. Nancy Cartwright, who's the voice of Bart Simpson, was on the radio and started talking about voiceover and how it was this incredible job. I called that day and I started taking classes that week. 2 years later I had an agent and I quit my job and moved to Los Angeles, and here we are today. The worst thing, if there is a worst thing about voiceover, is you know, it's a gig economy. I could have a great year one year and a terrible year the next, and I'm always hustling for that next paycheck. But you know, I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and I will be bagging groceries at the grocery store before I go back to corporate. My first job was as Katya in The Walking Dead.
You have no idea what sort of emotional damage is happening to her every second her family is gone.
I met some of my closest friends. Melissa Hutchison, who's Clementine, is one of my best friends. Normally in games, you could share 100 credits with someone and be like, yeah, that was cool. But this one was just lightning in a bottle. Also through that, I met Sean Bannerman and Jake Rodkin, and we went on to do Firewatch, and it changed everything. What they did, which was so wonderful as an actor, was they let me be in my home studio, and Rich was in his home studio, and Sean would Skype us in together, and we would have actual conversation. To have this game that really hinges upon believable dialogue be a dialogue, it was game-changing. Pun intended.
I'm glad you're here.
My name is Tamim Ansoniadis. I'm the Chief Creative Ninja at Ninja Theory. I've always felt at home in the games industry. Like, I've never felt like I was different to anyone. I mean, everyone came from all walks of life. I myself was born in Afghanistan. Dad's Greek Cypriot. I grew up in Spain, France, England, and I traveled the world. So I first applied as a programmer. When I went for the exam, they told me that I needed to know assembly language. I didn't know how to write machine code. I asked him to give me a couple of weeks. I went to the library and I learned from books, and I came back after 2 weeks and did the test and passed it. I didn't do great, but the guy who hired me, Toby Simpson, I think he sort of felt a little bit sorry for me, but also a little bit impressed. I've thought about giving up probably seriously about 4 or 5 times in my career. For many reasons, either it's personal or the work commitment and sacrifice that was required, or the business environment that you're in means that you can't make what you want to make. But the thing that always made me carry on was the desire to look back at those issues as growth opportunities. And it sounds cliche, but you can look back and see those moments as turning points. I think Hellblade was a very special kind of success, one that I've not achieved before in my career. It was super challenging, particularly because we didn't know exactly what we were making. I didn't know about severe mental illness, so as I was learning this over the course of 2.5, 3 years, we were constantly changing the story, the scenarios as we were going along, as well as figuring out how we're actually going to do this whole game on a budget. It was a miracle that we got through it. I sort of think you can think of the world as a game. And when you achieve one challenge, challenge complete, next level, and it's got to be more challenging. And I think that there's a role that video games, real-time technology, game design can have on the wider world outside of games. So I'd like to start exploring some of those ideas, as well as making great games.
My name is Jessica Curry and I'm a composer. I wouldn't say I was an avid gamer. It was always about music for me. I loved listening to extremely sad music and composing even sadder music, so there was an early pattern emerging for me. My husband, Dan, asked me to write some music for a very small game that he was making. That became Dear Esther. We put it onto Steam and we just watched the live sales data go up and up. It was in the tens of thousands within an hour and we just couldn't believe it. And all of a sudden, we were in the games industry. For me, one of the greatest joys and challenges of my life is being a working mum. The games industry isn't very good at working family hours. Although it is incredibly challenging being a working parent, having a child has also fed into my creativity so strongly. And raising my son Oscar has been one of the greatest joys of my life. The moment that we realised everything had changed with the first BAFTA nominations for Dear Esther, all of a sudden this whole world had opened up to us that we hadn't even, learned to dream of what could be possible, and everything was suddenly happening for us. I presented an evening of game music at the Royal Albert Hall, and my music was played, and my parents were there, and my son was there. It was amazing having thousands of people there, but having my family there, that was really special. My journey in the games industry, it's been fast-paced and exhausting and exhilarating. At times I thought I was definitely going to leave. I thought it wasn't for me, that I couldn't do it. For me, out of all the art forms, music can create the most joy. It's so embedded in me and it's so part of who I am. So I don't think it was, even though I felt like giving up, it wasn't really ever a choice.